Hey YouTube, this is Variety. Today I'm reviewing the Insta360 X5 and breaking down my real experience using it as a travel camera in Japan. This isn't a spec review or a studio test, it's about what it actually is like living with this camera day to day while traveling. I use the Insta360 walking through cities, crowded places like Shibuya, Disney parks, Universal Studios, Team Labs, and other busy tourist spots. I also use it for static shots and scenery. Everything you see in this video comes from real travel use, not a controlled test. If you'd like to see more footage from the Insta360 X5, watch my Oakley Meta Glasses review where I film what the glasses look like while filming. I'll be giving my full rating at the end of this video, and it might not be what you expect, so stick around for that. And if travel tech reviews like this help you out, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Let's break it down. Battery life was good, but it really depended how you use the camera. One full charge lasted me about 6 hours with super conservative use, meaning recording every once in a while. And I got around 3 hours with casual use, meaning filming every couple of minutes. And if you're constantly recording long clips in 5.7K or higher, it drops to about an hour and a half, maybe even less to be honest. I carry 2 batteries with me in my fanny pack and charge both at night using the charging dock. Realistically, if you assume you get 8 hours of sleep, a couple hours of travel, and time spent eating or resting, 2 batteries are enough to cover all the important parts of the day. I did run out of battery at times, but having 2 batteries made it manageable. I was always mentally tracking how much power I had left and whether I needed to save battery for the next location. That actually made me more intentional with how I filmed and more aware of whether I already had enough footage of a certain place like a temple or a train station, things I already had enough footage of. One feature that helped a lot was quick recording mode. You hit the record button and it starts recording instantly, and if there's no use for about 30 seconds, the camera automatically goes into sleep mode. You can repeat that process over and over and it saves a surprisingly amount of battery throughout the day. That feature alone made the camera way more practical for travel. Using the X5 felt very natural while walking through cities and crowded environments. I didn't have to worry about framing in the moment, but there is one thing you do need to be aware of, and that's where the lenses are facing. If you're filming something important like the sky tree, you want to make sure one of the lenses is actually facing the subject. If the subject lands on the stitch line instead, it can distort or slightly cut into the frame. As long as you face the lens towards what matters, you can pretty much guarantee nothing important gets messed up. Walking around with the selfie stick was mostly fine. It helped capture moments from a higher perspective and made it easy to get full body shots without my arm in the frame. Honestly, the stick is part of the illusion that makes the footage work and cuts it out of the shot. That said, I didn't love having to put the stick back in my pocket all the time. It felt a little awkward, kind of like carrying a baton, and sometimes it would stick out or poke uncomfortably like a metal tail. It wasn't a deal breaker, but it was something I was always aware of while moving around. The moment that fully sold me on the camera was at Team Labs. The videos were amazing there. Since the default 360 video quality is 5.7K, the footage really stood out in environments with layered lights, reflections, and movement. Being able to walk through Team Labs and later re-experience it in post-editing felt unreal. That was the moment I knew this camera wasn't just convenient, it was genuinely special. The night footage was okay overall. It wasn't bad, but it does require more care. In darker outdoor environments, footage can come out a little grainy at times. At places like Mega Illumi, it was very cold and I noticed the lens getting foggy. The same thing happened at Disney Sea's Lighthouse. It's not bad at all, but you do need to take precautions in freezing temperatures, rain, or when pulling the camera out of your pocket after a while. Sometimes you don't notice until you review the footage later, and in some cases only one of the 2 lenses was blurry, which meant half of the clip had to be framed out. Most of my footage was shot in 5.7K 360, and that ended up being the sweet spot for travel. It gave me enough resolution to reframe aggressively in post-editing without the image breaking down, especially in places like Team Labs, theme parks, and crowded city scenes. The camera is capable of recording up to 8K 360 video at 30 frames per second. But for real world travel, 5.7K was more than enough for how I was using it. The X5 can also shoot higher frame rates, including 5.7K up to 60 frames per second, and 4K up to 120 frames per second for slow motion. But I personally didn't use slow motion at all on this trip. My use was also entirely focused on standard video capture rather than cinematic slow motion shots. For photos, the camera can take up to 72 megapixel photos. I only took a couple of them, so this camera was really about video for me. But having that resolution means you can still pull clean frames or thumbnails if you need them. The camera uses dual 1/1.28 inch sensors with an f2.0 aperture, which helps with light capture compared to smaller 360 cameras. Flow state stabilization and horizon leveling are always working in the background, which is why I could walk around naturally through cities and parks without a gimbal and still get smooth footage. All of the specs matter less on paper and more in how they work. The biggest benefit for me was not having to commit to an angle while filming and being able to decide later when editing. One thing I didn't expect was how fun it would be to relive the footage with other people. I mirrored my phone to the TV and went through the 360 footage with my family. Instead of watching a video straight through, we could pause, swipe around, look at different angles in real time. Of course, this is in the 360 app. We could focus on one person's reactions, then swipe over and see someone else's reacting to the same moment. It felt less like watching a video and more like re-experiencing the moment together. That alone made the camera feel more valuable. It wasn't just content for social media, it was something we could actually sit down and enjoy. Editing is honestly one of the best parts of owning this camera. Going back through your footage feels like stepping into a VR version of your own memories. It's not high-end VR, more like Google VR on the cheaper side, but it was still really cool. That said, editing 360 footage isn't for everyone. More angles means more sorting, more reframing, more decisions, and I can see some people dreading that process. Reframing itself is one of the coolest features. Because the camera has two lenses, you can choose the best angle of each clip. You can capture both the scene and your reaction pretty easily. The feature I used the most was Deep Track, which kept my fakes in frame whenever I wanted to. Another feature I didn't expect to use, but did, was the de-warp button, which uses AI to make the footage look like it was captured on a regular, flat camera. One feature I really didn't think I'd use much was the AI editing tool, but I ended up using it a lot. You can select your clips, hit AI edit, and it automatically creates a short video by pulling moments from each clip. It adds music, matches the beat, and applies transitions, filters, movements, and angles. It saved a ton of time, and most of the footage in this video was AI edited. And what I mean by AI edit is that I let the AI choose short moments from the clips that I selected. Of course, it's going to generate some type of template that you can choose from, but I would strip that off. I would delete some clips here, replace others there, reframe the shots to show my face, show more of the scene, and then I would add my own music. The downside is that the AI edit is only available on mobile. The PC version is easier to edit on overall, but it's such a powerful feature is only locked to mobile. Something that I hate I caved into, but glad I did, was the cloud subscription. The first year is a free trial, and after that it charges $95 for the year, which means I do have to remember to cancel it if I don't want to keep it. That said, having my 360 footage available on my phone without connecting to the camera was a game changer. There's no way I have enough storage on my phone to hold around 200 gigabytes of video, especially not in the format required for 360 footage. The cloud gives you 1 terabyte of storage, and being able to instantly access, review, and edit footage without juggling files made the entire experience smoother while traveling. Something that annoyed me was the lens guard. The lens guard was one of my biggest frustrations. Any clip filmed with it looked blurry. Without it, footage was much clearer, but the lens could fog up in cold temperatures, rain, or even if it stayed in my pocket for too long. Another thing was having to reframe so much footage to my face using Deep Track. It took a lot of time, and in the future I think there should be a feature where you can select clips and face track automatically. The selfie stick was another annoyance. I don't like sticking out holding a pole, but that trait stick is what makes it invisible in footage. In some places, selfie sticks aren't even allowed, which is why you'll see my arm in some shots. The last one is that the camera also got hot after recording for a while. This camera isn't for everyone. If you're not a technical person, this probably isn't the camera for you. If you want the shot to look exactly like you want to see on the screen with zero post work, this isn't it. If you need things like optical zoom or very specific lighting controls, a regular camera might suit you better. But if you don't mind reframing and want flexibility, this camera is amazing. In this clip, you can see YouTubers like Tyler Oliveira using the Insta360 to investigate the scams in Japan. Here are some tips before you buy. One tip I strongly recommend is to buy a micro SD card that has at least 256 gigabytes or more of storage. You're going to be recording a lot of footage, especially in 360, and it adds up fast. There's also a very good chance you won't have enough storage on your phone to transfer everything over. Having a large SD card means you can film your entire trip without constantly swapping cards, fumbling with them, or taking the camera apart. It also makes post-editing easier. You can just pop the card into a card reader or your PC and work through everything in one place. A card that size might cost around $50 to $70 or even more right now, but it is absolutely worth it in the end for the convenience and peace of mind. My final rating for the Insta360 X5 is a 9 out of 10. In my mind, it's a 10 out of 10, but realistically, there are small issues I can't ignore. Even with those flaws, this is a total buy for me.
If you're seriously thinking about getting one of these cameras, please support the channel by purchasing through the affiliate link in my bio.
I'm going to be using this camera for a lot more videos in the future, so I'll probably drop more review content as I keep experimenting with it. If you have questions, drop them in the comments and I'll try to get back to you or even make another video answering them. This camera is still pretty new to me, so after more time with it, I might have more insights, more tips, or even decide to switch to a different type of camera altogether. But let me know your thoughts and what you'd like to see next. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. Peace.